this week's show, we head up to Washington State to visit Roadmaster, one of the country's leading RV accessory manufacturers. Innovation, excellence, and quality are what makes Roadmaster products so highly respected by RVers worldwide. Jerry Edwards, the founder and president of the company, has built Roadmaster behind a philosophy that quality is built in, not added on. Dave Robinson explains to us how it all started with a different type of tow bar.
We developed from a patent by Eric Davis, the Stowmaster, and the Stowmaster tow bar was conceptually there when we got it, but functionally it was not there. So we continued to work and tweak and engineer it, and that was the very first folding, collapsible, rigid arm tow bar in the industry. And it really kind of revolutionized the tow bar industry because up until that point, most people were using tow dollies. And those people that were using tow bars were typically fixed A-frame bars, and you'd have to align the tow bar perfectly with the motorhome. And if you're off by just that much, you'd have to get back in the car and jockey the car back around and get everything to line up perfectly. And it was kind of a hassle. With the Stowmaster, that all went away. We jokingly referred to the Stowmaster as the marriage saver because now one person could get out there, you just get the car close, and then the tow bar does all of the adjusting for you. And the Stowmaster was a big hit. We started to sell it in earnest in about 1987, and one of the big things that's necessary when you tow a car is you've got to have a way of attaching that tow bar to the front of a car. And so we started to develop bracketry. And today, we manufacture more brackets to fit more cars than anybody else in the industry. So Roadmaster became successful, and with success there came a lot of other opportunities. Many businesses approached Jerry about possible buyouts, and that's how we acquired Wheelmasters, which is stainless steel braided air hoses so that you can inflate the inner dual on your dual wheel tires, be it a truck or a motorhome. We also have the stainless steel wheel liners, and all of that is within the Wheelmaster family.
Made in America is more than just a slogan at Roadmaster, because virtually every part is made right in-house, as Dave explains.
Throughout the factory you'll see a number of machines that we've either created or invented. We've got a machine that bends the diodes so that we can put the spade terminals on very quickly and easily, and it just punches them out like little pieces of candy. And so there's a number of places throughout the factory where we have taken that philosophy of being in control of your own destiny and being able to make everything yourself kind of to the nth degree. Pretty much the only things that we don't make are the nuts and the bolts and some of the printed circuit boards. Now we've designed the printed circuit boards and we've spec'd out the componentry, but physically manufacturing the printed circuit boards is one thing that we don't do. Barring those two items, we pretty much make everything that goes into manufacturing the tow bar or braking system or whatever accessory we may be manufacturing.
Now, Dave explains to us just what goes into building those Roadmaster tow bars.
As far as our manufacturing process goes, because we do make everything pretty much from scratch, it all begins on one end of the building with raw materials. And usually, when it comes to the tow bars, we're talking about long, either 20 or 40-foot lengths of steel. We have chop saws that will bundle these pieces of steel and cut through many layers of it all at once. We cut them to the correct size. And then there's also flat steel, and a lot of flat steel is used in gusseting and support braces and so forth, particularly in our tow bar mounting brackets. All of those are either laser cut or plasma cut, and we have some state-of-the-art equipment that's used. We have dual head plasma cutters, which will simultaneously cut two parts out of a sheet of steel at one time. We have some lights out laser machines that literally will run 24/7. If there's a problem, it'll call the operator in the middle of the night, and the operator has the opportunity to sometimes fix it over the phone, or he can make the decision to come in and fix it. And it makes for a very efficient production when you come in the next morning and you have all your raw goods sitting there waiting for you. So as we go down the assembly line, each piece of material is cut to length. There's a number of parts, or high volume parts. We build our own dies and then we stamp them out, and they're like big cookie cutters. They just ka-chunk, 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 and the next piece falls off into the bucket. These are all brought together into welding booths, and in these welding booths the tow bar begins to take shape and all the pieces and parts are assembled and put together. After the pieces and parts have been cut, be it on a table saw or on a laser or plasma table, Then the pieces will go into a tumbler. And this tumbler is a big vibrating tub, and it'll just sit there and shake, and it's got some media in that tumbler. And it just sits there and rubs and vibrates, and what it does is it knocks off all the sharp edges. And we're big sticklers on safety, and one of the things that we want to make sure of is that there's no sharp corners. And that's what the tumblers will do for us, is knock those off. It also knocks off all the mill scale that's on the steel, just naturally occurring from the steel production process. And you want to get that off for a good adhesion of your finish. So the tumblers will allow us to have a very smooth product, but it's also a very clean and prepared product, because the next step is to put it into our powder coating process. And it's a very long conveyor belt, and essentially it goes through a wash process first to make sure that any powdery residue that is left over from the manufacturing process is washed off. It then goes through an oven, heats it up to about 400 degrees, and the oven also is designed to allow for the proper curing of the powder, because in the next step it'll go through a powder coat which has electronic eyes, and when it sees the steel pass by it, it'll spray the powder, and it literally is a powder that is electrostatically charged, and the product that's on the line is charged oppositely, so the powder wants to stick to the steel, and that's what allows it to get into all the little nooks and crannies of the tow bar or the bracket or whatever product we happen to be painting. And with that powder coat, it then goes back into the oven, and it's literally a baked-on finish. And it is much more durable than painting, than dip painting. It's really the most durable process that's used in the tow bar industry. Once all of the pieces and parts have been manufactured, then it of course has to be assembled. Once all of the parts have come together, they're bolted together, it goes through a safety inspection. We make sure that the tow bar is functioning properly. And then once we're satisfied, then all of the stickers go on it. It goes into the box. We put our stamp on the box, and it goes off to our warehouse, waiting shipment to one of our distributors. We do manufacture our cables, and as I've tried to communicate earlier, we manufacture almost everything from scratch. There's very little. On our safety cables, we will buy the cable, which is insulated and coated when we receive it on a 5,000-foot spool. And we've created our own machine that will strip the plastic coating off of the cable. We have a machine that will then crimp the ends into a loop so that you can connect it to something. We have a very special cable that we utilize on our Sterlings, and on the Sterling it's called an easy hook cable. And it has a small ball that's literally swedged onto the end of that cable, and then that ball just inserts into a groove, and that's what secures it to the car. Well, that was an idea that we'd had, and it took us almost a year to figure out how to attach that ball to the end of the cable such that it could never pull off. When we install that ball, the cable will break before that end will come off. And that is one more thing that you'll find about Roadmasters. We're extremely safety conscious, and you'll find that our products are second to none in terms of strength and durability.
And what does all that quality control and testing mean to the customer?
Some days I wished we made popcorn or paper towels or something that was consumable so that we could sell more product to the same customer. But we do have customers, particularly on the Stowmaster tow bar, which was our first one, and therefore it's been out there the longest. We have customers that have come to us for new brackets for their new car, and they're still on their same first Stowmaster tow bar that was built 15, 20 years ago, and this is the fourth or fifth or sixth vehicle that we physically have put that on. So we make a very long-lasting, high-quality product, and the good news is that the customers keep coming back for the brackets and the cables and the wiring kits and so forth, but those darn tow bars seem to last forever.
Besides a tow bar, there's one more key item you'll need before you start towing: a supplemental braking system. And Roadmaster builds one of, if not the best system on the market. To say that this is a complex system would be a vast understatement. As Mike Cannon explains, each and every system that goes out the door has been tested and retested, and it all starts before anything is even assembled.
One thing we've learned is not to rely on a vendor supplying us parts, and so we test 100% of all bought, purchased products and products that we build and assemble ourselves. We actually test. We don't rely on one department to do it. The buck stops here. If something's not right, I'm the one that gets the phone call, so it's my responsibility to make certain what goes in that box is built correctly, and we've put several different steps in place for determining, do we have good circuit boards, do we have good radio transmitters for communication. Just every device, if we buy an air compressor, 100% of those air compressors are tested. Roadmaster's invested a considerable amount of revenue into testing with thermal imaging camera. One of the top-of-the-line thermal imaging cameras is used in the process of all circuit boards that go through the company. And a thermal image will actually allow you to see things that you can't see with your naked eye on a circuit board. The major parts of all this braking system is manufactured right here at Roadmaster. We receive the bases from another department. They come off of the laser and off the bender and paint line. We start off, we assemble some components to this base assembly, and as they travel down the assembly line, they'll come to a station where air pressure is tested. The magnet that uses electricity to control the amount of air pressure going to the brake system is calibrated. And it's very easy to make one brake system, but to make thousands of them all work the same, we have a process for doing that. And as you well know, this is plugged into a car that's running off the car battery. And if you tow for several days, your battery would start to deplete. And some of the things that we've done with our braking system is to give you the same amount of braking in your towed vehicle the day you start towing 3 days from now, as your battery was to wear down a little bit. We have devices that notify you of battery level, and we calibrate according to this voltage parameter. The assembly line is designed to point out problems along the way, and as you go around the corner, the cover is installed on it. There's some more leak testing done. It would be very difficult to take every one of these, put it in a car, and go tow it down the highway and test it. So we've created here at Roadmaster a motion table that simulates you towing your car and stepping on the brakes. In this motion table, we found that if we test 4 of them side by side by side by side, it's very easy to see how they react. Once the unit has been motion tested, another leak test is performed on it because we've moved a lot of air through the braking system. And then we do some recording of information about the braking system. This unit, the Even Brake, has 3 different circuit boards. And these circuit boards all communicate with one another. And there's different hardware, software, and we record all that data onto paper, and it's brought up and it's logged. You could ask me 4 years ago what Even Brake serial number was. I could tell you the day it was made and the software that it was used to build it and what hardware was used. We store all that data. In the future, if there was ever a problem with a particular series, we would know exactly what days and what runs of parts those came from. So we store a lot of information. One of the final things we do is we clean the unit, and there's a checkoff list of everything in the box, because this does come with an accessory kit as far as the breakaway and the wire connections, all the owner's manuals, all that product goes through a checkoff list and goes into the box.
Well, as we've learned from our visit, one thing for sure, Roadmaster quality is certainly built in. For more information on anything you've seen on today's show, including additional video and interviews at Roadmaster, visit our website at rollingontv.com.